we have in this page is 665.
Yes, Rangada.
Yeah. So, shall we start? It's 8 o'clock, we can start. I see that Jasmine has not joined yet. Shilpa has joined.
Good morning, Rangada. Good morning, everybody.
So we'll start. Yeah, we have already read it. Fine. So I will go sentence by sentence. Okay. So, for we have in this unfolding of knowledge the two terms of the one and the many, as we have the two terms of the finite and the infinite, of that which becomes and of that which does not become, but forever is, of that which takes form and of that which does not take form, of spirit and matter, of the supreme superconscious and the nethermost inconscience. In this dualism, and to get away from it, it is open to us to define knowledge as the possession of the one term and the possession of the other as ignorance. Now, that's a very interesting sentence, because this is what I often do. Because we speak of one and many, and we speak of finite and infinite, spirit and matter, okay, motion and non-motion, dynamism and static. So Srendra has given us all the equivalents. This is exactly what I do with students. But here is a magnificent paragraph where he's telling you all the equivalents. So we should actually note down the equivalents. Okay, so that's the thing. And then the last bit is a fantastic sentence. He's saying that there is one and many, the spirit and matter, consciousness and unconsciousness. Okay, then there is he's saying so many, we can take all form and formlessness, okay, infinite and finite. So the two are absolutely opposite to each other. Then fantastic, he says, and to get away from it, it is open to us to define knowledge as a possession of one term and the possession of the other as ignorance. Okay, so in other words, when you know the one, you are enabled, you are okay, you can say that you have the knowledge when you go to one. But when you come to the lower end, matter, then you can say that you are in ignorance. Okay? So it is really very interesting. It is open to us. Okay? But he can also say that if you only know the spirit, then there is ignorance. And if you know only the matter, then that also is ignorance. So he would define, Srem's definition of knowledge would be, you must know both. Real knowledge is the knowledge of the one as well as the many. That's what he would say. Let's see what he says. But this is what he is described. Okay? So let's do one thing. It's a very 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. Okay? So we get the equivalence first. I make the students do that. One above, many below, finite below, infinite above. Of that which becomes and of that which does not become. That which becomes below. That which does not become forever is above. That which takes form below and that which does not take form above. Spirit above, matter below. The superconscious above and the nethermost inconscious below. So he has given you the equivalent terms. In this dualism, and to get away from it, it is open to us to define knowledge as the possession of one term and the possession of the other as ignorance. Okay, so the one term would be the higher and the lower would be the ignorance. You can define the word knowledge, you can define by definition. Okay? The ultimate of our life would then be a drawing away from the lower reality of the becoming to the greater reality of the being. This is 90% of yogic effort is exactly that. You want to get away from the lower and go to the higher. Okay? The ultimate of our life would then be a drawing away from the lower reality of the becoming to the greater reality of the being. Okay. Now, note on, interestingly, he is saying lower reality of the becoming. So, he is not saying that there is no reality at all. This is his own philosophy. Lower is a reality, but the reality of the becoming. The greater reality of the being. A leap from ignorance to the knowledge and a rejection of the ignorance, a departure from the many into the one, from the finite into the infinite, from form into formless, from life of the material universe into the spirit, from hold of the inconscient upon us into the superconscious existence. He is again repeating all the equivalents. Okay. So, in other words, there are many people who do that. In India, especially, the yoga, all the yogas, this is the aim. Okay. The yogas, this is the aim. Go to the higher and get rid of the lower. In this solution, in this particular solution of defining knowledge, there is supposed to be a fixed opposition. They are opposites. An ultimate irreconcilability in each case between the two terms of our being. In each case, he has given you 7 or 8 equivalents, and in each one, it is not possible to reconcile the two. Or else, if both are a means of the manifestation of the Brahman, the lower is a false or imperfect clue, a means that must fail, a system of values that cannot ultimately satisfy us. This is again, he is continuing with the theory that knowledge is above and ignorance is below. Okay, so he is continuing with that. Dissatisfied with the confusions of the multiplicity, disdainful of even the highest light and power and joy that it can reveal, the highest light and power and joy that can reveal would be the scientific, okay, not spiritual. The spiritual would be above, but at the lowest level, the ignorance, the highest light is science, and power and joy that it can reveal. We must drive beyond to the absolute one-pointedness and one-standingness, okay, in which all self-variation ceases. Okay. So, self-variation, when you are in the lower, there is a variation at all levels, the physical level, at the vital level, at the mental level. And that's because the movement is there in the lower. And very interesting, he's saying self-variation. Look, when you are a baby, you are only a 7-pound baby. When you are an adult, you have varied, you have become different. Okay? So that's physical variation. Then, what about the vital variation? You go on changing, your desires and all that go on changing through life. And your mental variation also is there, because what you know today, tomorrow you can know better. So very interesting word he has used, self-variation. He is defining the lower. Okay? Because there is no variation at the higher, remember that. Okay? So see how he uses words, so interesting. Self-variation. Okay? He is giving you extra information. Then at the lower end, there is always a variation, self-variation. Variation not in nature, in yourself. Okay? Individually, psychologically also and physically also. Ceases. Okay? So what's saying? We must drive. When he's saying we must drive, you must be very careful. There is no saying. It is people who believe that knowledge is above and below. Mayavadins and the Buddhists, okay? That's what he's saying. We must drive beyond to the absolute one-pointedness and one-standingness. Okay? So, one-pointedness is interesting and one-standingness. Okay? You are static, you become static, in which all self-variation is. Unable, by the claim of the infinite upon us, to dwell forever in the bonds of the finite, or to find their satisfaction and largeness and peace, we have to break all the bonds of individual and universal nature, destroy all values, symbols, images, self-definitions, limitations of the illimitable, and lose all littleness and division in the self that is forever satisfied with its own infinity. At a lower level, all these things are there. Limitations, definitions, okay, symbols, images, and then finally division of the self. All these disgusted with forms, disillusioned of their false and transient attractions, wearied and discouraged by their fleeting impermanence and vain round of recurrence, we must escape from the cycles of nature into the formlessness and featurelessness of permanent being. He's continuing with his description of the Mayavada and the Buddhists. Ashamed of matter. We're going to great detail to why people want to get away from the world. Okay? Ashamed of matter and its grossness, impatient of the purposeless stir and trouble of life, tired out by the goalless running of mind, and convinced of the vanity of all its aims and objects, we have to release ourselves into the eternal repose and purity of the spirit. The inconscient is a sleep or a prison. The conscient, a round of strivings without ultimate issue, or the wanderings of a dream. We must wake into the superconscious, where all darkness of night and half-lights cease in the self-luminous bliss of the eternal. The eternal is our refuge. All the rest are false values. The ignorance and amazes a self-bewilderment of the soul in phenomenal nature. All this is not Sri philosophy at all. He is describing the philosophy of Mayavada and the others who say that the physical world is imperfect and only the spirit is perfect and you have to go there. Does he agree with all this? No, he does not. There is a partial truth in what is being said by the other. Okay, there is a partial truth. But if you introduce the notion of evolution, then the whole thing changes. Because evolution is something that is going step by step towards the opposite of what the spirit and what matter is. There is an evolution. Slowly, spirit is revealing itself in the lower. It's not a permanent imperfection. It's a work in progress. It is slowly going up. So, this is what he is saying in the paragraph. His description is absolutely fantastic. He has gone overboard describing. And there is a suggestion also of there is some amount of legitimacy in what the Mayavadins and the Buddhists are saying. That's what he's saying. Because until now it is like that. It's okay. But in future, you will go step by step, even in the lower, towards perfection. So that will be his philosophy. Now we can read the next one. Our conception of the knowledge and the ignorance. There you are. See, now he's saying, I don't agree with this idea. Our conception. We have to stress our conception.
Rangada,
Yes. Tell me.
I was just thinking, it just crossed my mind that if somebody just picks up this paragraph from Life Divine, he can so easily say, misconstrue what Sri Aurobindo is trying to say. Na?
Absolutely. That's the whole danger. That's why I keep on stressing.
So I was just going through, there are places where he's indicated that this would have been, this would be, meaning that, no, this is not actually. But otherwise, it is so fantastically written that one can easily read this and convince that, yeah, Sri Aurobindo is talking of Mayavad.
Absolutely. That is a danger. That's a danger. His style is like that. He only mentions.
Yes, Rangada. That's why it's so important to read him or to, quote him completely. If you put it in bits or anything, you can actually give just the opposite. In fact, we can murder him in a way.
Absolutely.
Just crossed my mind, so I thought of sharing.
And as you said, it is so well written.
Yes, so well written, so convincing. Exactly, Rangada.
Exactly. So now, Archana ji, we read the next one. The
yes, Rangada.
Sentence contradicts all that he said earlier.
Yes. Our conception of the knowledge and the ignorance rejects this negation and the oppositions on which it is founded. It points to a larger, if more difficult, issue of reconciliation. For we see that these apparently opposite terms of one and many, form and the formless, finite and the infinite, are not so much opposites as complements of each other, not alternating values of the Brahman, which in its creation perpetually loses oneness to find itself in multiplicity, and unable to discover itself in multiplicity, loses it again to recover oneness. But double and concurrent values which explain each other, not hopelessly incompatible alternatives, but two faces of the one reality which can lead us to it by a realization of both together and not only by testing each separately, even though such separate testing may be a legitimate or even an inevitable step or part of the process of knowledge. Knowledge is no doubt the knowledge of the one, the realization of the being. Ignorance is a self-oblivion of being, the experience of separateness in the multiplicity, and a dwelling or circling in the ill-understood maze of becomings. But this is cured by the soul in the becoming, growing into knowledge, sorry, into awareness of the being, which becomes in the multiplicity all these existences and can so become because the truth is already there in its timeless existence. The integral knowledge of Brahman is a consciousness in possession of both together, and the exclusive pursuit of either closes the vision to one side of the truth of the omnipresent reality. The possession of the being who is beyond all becomings brings to us freedom from the bonds of attachment and ignorance in the cosmic existence, and brings by that freedom a free possession of the becoming and of the cosmic existence. The knowledge of the becoming is a part of knowledge. It acts as an ignorance only because we dwell imprisoned in it. Avidyaya antare, without possessing the oneness of the being, which is its base, its stuff, its spirit, its cause of manifestation, and without which it could not be possible.
This whole paragraph is his own philosophy and he's telling you what he has to say. Therefore, it's very necessary when you read this one, you have to stress the word our conception. If you read just like that, our conception of the knowledge, you may feel that it's a very general statement of our. But no, when he's saying our conception means my conception, the integral view. Okay, so you have to be very careful with the word our conception. His humility does not allow him to put it in italics or in bold letters. So, our conception. So, when I read, I will read it like that. Make it very clear that this is Sriyamno's view. Okay. Our conception of the knowledge and the ignorance rejects this negation and the oppositions on which it is founded. Okay. I don't agree with what the others are saying. The two, spirit and matter, are not opposites. Okay, that's the whole point. Form and formless are not opposites. They are complementary aspects of each other. Okay. It points to a larger, if more difficult issue of reconciliation. So, it points to a larger, it's very difficult to reconcile them, but still it is possible if you take a larger view of things. For we see that these apparently opposite terms, note the word apparently opposite terms of one and many, form and the formless, finite and infinite, are not so much opposites as complements of each other. Okay? Not alternating values of the Brahman, which in its creation perpetually loses oneness to find itself in multiplicity and unable to discover itself in multiplicity, loses it again to recover oneness. But double and concurrent values which explain each other, not hopelessly incompatible alternatives, but two faces of the one reality which can lead us to by our realization of both together, and not only by testing each separately, even though such separate testing may be a legitimate and even an inevitable step or part of the process of knowledge. Now, it's a huge sentence, and so we have to often go phrase by phrase. Okay. So, What he's saying now, let's have a look. For we see, again the we is Sri Aurobindo. It's not that everybody is seeing. If you don't read carefully, you will not get the significance of we. We means Sri Aurobindo. Okay? For we see, that means I am seeing, but it doesn't say I am seeing. Okay? For we see that these apparently opposite terms of one and many, form and the formless, finite and infinite, are not so much opposites as complements of each other. Now note very carefully, are not so much opposites. He is not saying that they are not opposite. They are opposites in a sense, okay? Are not so much opposites. See, the reality is so subtle and so complicated that no one statement will ever give you the reality. The opposite should always also have a point. That's why Sri is using the word not so much opposites. They are opposites from certain angle, but they are not so much opposites as complements of each other. The complementarity is more real than the oppositeness, okay, of the contrariness. That's what he's saying. And what is the complementarity? Complement. We take a coin, obverse and reverse. Okay, that's what he uses the word. It's the same coin, but if you look at it from this side, it is one side. The other side is the other side. Okay, obverse and reverse. So this is the reality. In everything that is it, and even the dualities in the physical world. Remember, that's also another way of saying. When the divine is manifesting himself, he manifests himself infinitely, not in a very finite manner. Okay? In the physical world also, infinity translates itself into dualities. Take light, okay, when it is coming down. I told you this example is very useful. When light is creating light, he creates not only one type of light. He creates, and to make it more obvious, I say, a 1000-watt bulb. Okay, but does he stop at that? No, he makes a 2000-watt bulb. He makes a 5000-watt bulb. Why not a 10,000-watt bulb? In fact, infinite bulb. Okay, and on the other side also, if you go on slowly, 500 watts, 100 watts, 50 watts, 0 watts. So what do you get? It's the same light which is becoming one side infinite and one side finite, but it's still the same light. There's no oppositeness. Okay, so therefore it is a complementarity. So in the world, dualities, all the dualities are really the same thing, taking two different poles. Now when you apply this truth, light you can understand very easily. But if I say that gentleness and cruelty are really the same thing, then you'll say, what nonsense are you talking? But it's the same truth. That's why in a spiritual life, you have to go beyond both. You have to go beyond kindness and beyond cruelty. You have to go beyond sin and beyond virtue. They are at the same level. The dualities are always in level 1. Okay? So that's a interesting thing that is being said. So keep this in mind. Okay? So complements of each other and not opposites. They are opposites in a certain sense. Okay? Nobody is denying that. And yet they are not fully opposites. Not alternating values of the Brahman, which in its creation perpetually loses oneness to find itself in multiplicity and unable to discover itself in multiplicity, okay, loses it again to recover oneness, but double and concurrent values. Now this is also very interesting. We'll dwell a little on it. Okay, it is thought that static condition. He has discussed this, if you remember, in conscious force. Okay, but we have a tendency to forget what he has discussed, and also we have to apply the abstract notion to very particular cases. Then it becomes easy to understand. So I just refer back to that. Okay, he's saying, unable to discover in myself. Is static and dynamic, are they opposites? They are not. They are really the same thing. And to make you understand that they are the same thing, there are very interesting examples. Okay, I'll give you 2-3 examples. We have discussed it before, but I'll discuss it again. Take the consciousness, static consciousness, which becomes movement in the physical world. So he has discussed this in the chapter on conscious force. So consciousness, which is static, suddenly becomes dynamic in the physical world. How come? So it is mad. So is it really the same, or are the static and dynamic are always together? And then to prove that they are always together, okay, you come to many examples. Take the case of a clock. Okay? A clock which is normal clock, mechanical clock, will go on stopping every second. No? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is rest and there is movement. Rest and movement. Rest is spirit, movement is the physical world. Okay? But if you now, is it alternative? That's what Sridhar is asking here. He's saying Brahman, which is his creation, perpetually loses oneness to find itself in multiplicity. Okay? That means we go back to the basic idea of Brahman creates, Shiva destroys, Brahma creates, Shiva destroys, and Vishnu makes it appear as though it's the same. This is the truth that is being discussed here. Their complementariness. So if you take the clock, okay, then you can see that it is a broken movement. It is movement, rest and movement, rest and movement. But if you reduce that gap of 1 second to half a second, then the movement of the will appear to be more smooth. Okay? The movement of the clock hand, the hand of the clock. It won't be like this, but it will be more like it, faster. And if you reduce that to 1/10 of a second and 1/1,000,000th of a second, the movement will be like a digital clock, no stopping. It will be continuous movement. Okay? So now take the example of the cinema. Okay? When you are seeing a cinema, it seems to be continuous movement only. When the image is very clearly going one slowly, and you are seeing a continuous movement in cinema. But is that really continuous is a question. Because if you go to the cinematic side, one action is portrayed as very smooth, but that every second of action, there are 24 frames, 24 film frames, which give you the impression that it is broken. So, in other words, they are always together. Another example to show you that there are no dualities. They are really one and the same thing. So, movement and static condition are absolutely the same. Okay, they are always together. That's exactly what he's saying here. Brahman, which is in his creation perpetually, loses oneness to find itself in multiplicity, and unable to discover itself in multiplicity, loses it again to recover oneness, but double and concurrent values which explain each other. In other words, they are always together and they are involved in each other. In the physical world, movement is prominent, but the static condition is hiding inside the movement. At the highest level, static condition is the prominent part, but potentiality of movement is there at the higher level. We know that the self, the Brahman consciousness, is immutable. But in that immutableness, the power is there to bring a movement. Okay? So this is exactly what he's saying. Very interesting. He's explaining how the two are always together. They are not opposites. Okay, so not hopelessly incompatible alternatives, but two faces of the one reality. The two faces of one reality, you take a coin, okay, the two faces, obverse and reverse. They are always together. Not only by testing each separately, even though such separate testing may be a legitimate and even an inevitable step on part of the process of knowledge. So what does this mean? He's saying testing each separately. Science is testing the knowledge at the lower end, and Sherpa is saying it is legitimate. And the ascetic is testing the knowledge at the higher, and that also is legitimate. That's what he's saying. Okay, you can test both, but after having tested both, you come to the knowledge that they are really the same. Even though such separate testing may be a legitimate or even an inevitable step or part of the process of knowledge. Now, we go to the next sentence. Knowledge is no doubt the knowledge of the one. He is not denying that. The realization of the being. Being means the static condition. Becoming is the opposite. Being is the non-movement and becoming is the movement. Okay? So, ignorance is a self-oblivion of being. So, ignorance is you are forgetting that you are a static condition. Okay? That's what he said. Ignorance, that's why we are in the physical world, we have forgotten who we are. We are really divine, but you have forgotten. And when you go to the highest level, you realize what you are, but you are out of the movement. You have discarded the body, mind, life. You are up there. So, the experience of separateness in the multiplicity and a dwelling or circling in the ill-understood maze of becomings. So he's giving you the opposites. Okay? He's telling you what knowledge is and ignorance is. Okay? Knowledge is no doubt knowledge of the one. Ignorance is a self. By the way, these are words which is defining. Huh? Knowledge is no doubt knowledge of the one. And ignorance is a self-oblivion of being. Opposite. Experience of separateness in the multiplicity, that's our condition. When I am seeing you, you are separate from me. And we are in the multiplicity of the world. So that is ignorance. And a dwelling or circling in the ill-understood maze of becomings. There's so many, it's a very complicated thing in the physical world. All the time the opposites are there. Ill-understood maze of becomings. But maze of becoming very clear. Sometimes you may hate, sometimes you may love. Sometimes you may be calm, sometimes you will be in a disturbance. Okay? So these are all the ill-understood maze of becoming. But this is cured by the soul in the becoming, by growing into knowledge, into awareness of the being, which becomes in the multiplicity all these existences and can so become because their truth is already there in its timeless existence. The spirit is there in matter and matter is potentially there in spirit. That's what it says. So they are together already. So the integral knowledge of Brahman is a consciousness in possession of both together. Now, this is his master's sentence. The integral knowledge, the real knowledge of Brahman is a consciousness in possession of both together. And the exclusive pursuit of either closes the vision to one side or of the truth of the omnipresent reality. The omnipresent reality is everywhere, at the highest level, even at the lowest level, though it is hiding in the lower level. In the higher level, it is openly visible, but in the lower, it is hiding. In the higher, the omnipresent reality is very clear, but its expression is hiding. Okay, so the world is hiding there. The possession of the being, who is beyond all becoming, or beyond all becomings, brings to us freedom from the bonds of attachment and ignorance in the cosmic existence, and brings by that freedom a free possession of the becoming. In other words, you can go up, get the knowledge, and that knowledge can make you free so that you can also come down and continue to have the knowledge of the one even while you are in the becoming. It's very difficult, but that is possible to do. If you go to the supramental level, if you stand only at the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness, that is not possible. But it's possible to do that when you go to the third level. Okay. So, the knowledge of the becoming is a part of knowledge. What he's saying is, knowledge of the becoming is what? Science. Science is the knowledge of the becoming. Okay? It's a part of knowledge. That's why in the Western civilization, God and the physical world are opposites, and therefore they say spiritual knowledge and scientific knowledge are opposites. And so they have a big problem with that. In India, there is no problem at all. They are all Advaita philosophy, they are all the same. So science has got its field in the lower, and spirituality has got its field in the higher. They are not opposites, they are complementary aspects. Both are valid. Okay, that's what he's saying. The knowledge of the becoming is a part of knowledge. Actually, you should have put is a part of knowledge. Okay, he should have put is in bold letters. Is, it is absolutely. Even the becoming, knowledge of becoming is a part of knowledge. It acts as an ignorance only because we dwell imprisoned in it. There you are. So the whole problem is when you are in the lower, you are imprisoned. But if you are in the physical world without being imprisoned, in other words, you realize who you really are and still continue to be in the physical world, then that is not ignorance anymore. Although you are in the physical world. Okay? So that's a problem. It acts as an ignorance only because we dwell imprisoned in it. Avidyayam antare. Avidyayam is ignorance without possessing the oneness of the being. So, if you are in your physical world and you have a cosmic consciousness, you are already well on the way to realizing the integrality of knowledge. Both are real. Okay, that's why the cosmic consciousness is so important. When you are in the cosmic consciousness of the self, you do not reject the physical world. How can you reject? Because the whole world is in you and you are in everybody. It's absolutely real. That's what it is. Without possessing the oneness of being, it is ignorance, which is its base, stuff and spirit, a cause of manifestation, and without which it could not be possible. So, when you are in the physical world and yet you are not imprisoned in the body mind life, your consciousness is outside and possesses the body mind life, that's an integral knowledge. Okay, so very interesting para that we read today. So the first para is describing the view that he does not subscribe to. Second para is describing the view that is his own view. Okay, and also remember our view. Okay, these things we have to stress the word. Okay, our conception. Okay, we have to stress that. We, when he says we, it is those views that he means it. If you're not very careful about that, you will read we means everybody. Okay, not like that at all. So it's we have come to 8:40. Only 2 minutes are left. So if there's any question, then we can discuss it. Otherwise, we will stop here today. And next time, tomorrow, that is, in fact, the Brahman is. We'll read that next time. Okay, I hope you followed the whole argument in the way it was said. So I've made it so clear. Okay, any questions? Okay.
No, I just like to say it's very clear,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it
It is
solves
so-
many questions I've been having. So
Yes.
I'm happy.
Okay, then we stop today.
Yes, I will make notes.
Okay. Tomorrow will be, in fact, the Brahman is not.
Yes.
So in fact, this is the also it's there in the Indian Vedanta. It is there. Saguna and Nirguna. There are two aspects of the. There are two aspects of the divine. Saguna is the multiplicity. Nirguna is the oneness. Okay. We cut the link. All right.
Thank you, Rangada.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody.
Thank you, Dada. Au revoir.